Hey, Gavox here. So, there's been a little bit of a debate between me and Eric on Twitter about what makes a good AI and what kind of like how hard it would be to play the game of Madden with a good AI. So I brought Eric on. We are going to settle this beef live here on the channel. So I just want to start off. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good, good.
Almost
So
Madden 20 season, man.
it is almost Madden, and this tweet you said they could actually make a good AI in Madden, but then literally when no one would ever score. I don't think people realize how small the gap is between AI that is barely good enough to function versus actual good AI that would dominate you every game. Now I clap back asking if somebody had kidnapped you because I don't think they can make a good AI. So what's your definition? Because we had a little problem here. What's your definition of good AI?
Well, I think this is probably the disconnect is I think most people don't realize what good AI means. Like Madden's AI is pretty shit in most areas, but it's still passable. And if it was, it could still be better. Like, but it would still be considered bad AI because if AI was truly good in most games, they would dominate you. And devs across all games have been saying this for years that it's like it's not that they can't make the AI good because that technology exists. You can make AI pretty damn smart, but in terms of a video game, if you did that, no one would be like if it's a shooter, you would get killed every time. You wouldn't be able to hit your opponent. If it's Madden, you would get something somewhat close to 91 zone in Madden 18. Not to say that 91 zone was like there was still shit AI in that game altogether, but 91 zone was just kind of a small taste of what good AI is capable of doing. Good AI is unrealistically good because it's not human. And I think when people just say, "Oh, the AI needs to be better," yes, the AI definitely can still be better in Madden blocking, the zones, man defense. That's a really tough one because But either way, it's like if it was just a little too good, no one would score. And I don't think people realize that. Like most of these games have bad AI, but it's just passable enough to give you somewhat of a light challenge while also being very easy to manipulate at the same time.
But is hard bad? Like, right? Don't people love Dark Souls because it's so hard? Like, what's wrong with something being hard? First
No, I'm
off,
I'm saying that like specifically what I was talking about earlier today is not even just AI, but the game being sim. If Madden, for example, was as sim and as the AI was as smart as people think they want it to be, most people would not be able to play it. Most people don't even have the football knowledge to play a game that would be that real, and I don't think people realize that. Good AI doesn't necessarily mean that the game is too hard to play. I'm saying that if the AI, if you move that needle even just too much one way, which it's a hard thing to balance because the line is so fine. If you go just a little bit too much one way, it's not that it's hard to play, it's that it's unplayable because the AI would always be better than you unless you just found
like, so
some crazy glitch that could get around them. But other than that, it would just be smarter than you at every turn and you would never be able to defeat it.
yeah, so like you bring up 18 and 91 zone being an example of good AI. I think that's shit AI because basically all they did was make it was a hack. It was hacked together. All they did was make the DB psychic. So if you have like a sail concept with a clear out route, a corner route, and a flat route, the clear out route wouldn't matter because they can just turn their back and go immediately when the ball is thrown. Like in my opinion, 18 was shit AI. That was bad AI. Like your definition of good AI is like psychic and super powerful and hard to move the ball. That's not my definition at all. Like good AI would be football concepts working. The cover two beaters beating cover two. Like kind of like sideline routes being able to get to the edge and you kind of beat the cover two. Kind of like we saw in the national championship a little bit ago. The cover two has weaknesses. Cover three has weaknesses. A good AI means those things are programmed into the game. Those weaknesses are there. So I disagree with like it being too hard and people not understanding. And sorry to go back to the not understanding part. I don't think we should baby people. I think if you want to learn how to play a football game, you should need to know football knowledge. Like that should actually matter something in the game. Like don't coddle to the people that don't want to learn, that only want to throw like say they only want to throw streaks and swerve every play. I don't think those people should be catered to. I think the football knowledge gap needs to be there. What do you think about that?
Well, no, see, this is the thing. Like your definition of good AI is not. It's not necessarily wrong. Like in the perfect world, that's what it would be. It would be, hey, cover three. They're gonna play. They're gonna jump routes that realistically they're able to jump. They're not gonna be able to jump with their ball or their back to the ball. Although it would be a realistic football setting playing out on field. But the problem is AI doesn't necessarily work that way. It's not human. So when you turn the AI up, it's gonna have those superhuman actions that can happen. You might get something that's perfect, like okay, the zones are playing great, but now man is just playing too good, and they're sticking and running every route for him. Like it, the hard part is not making AI good. The hard part is making it balanced to where it's actually reflecting real life and not there's no superhuman aspects coming into it. That's what's hard. That's not a Madden
Yeah.
problem. That's like any game you play. That's that's really what I was trying to get at most of the time. Is the hard part is finding that sweet spot, and there's not many games I think that you can point to that have found that sweet spot. Even games that people think, oh, the AI is good in this game. No, the AI is still pretty damn retarded in those games, but it's just good enough to give you a somewhat realistic challenge, but it's still not good. If it was good, it would be probably impossible to beat. It's hard to do that, especially in a sports game, especially a game like Madden with so many moving parts. Like, yes, in an ideal world, cover 3, cover 2, cover 4, man, they would all play realistic to the ratings. They would stay in their area. They would defend the routes that they're supposed to defend, and the concepts would beat them the way they're supposed to. But that is much easier said than done. And I know that your stance is like, well, it's their job to figure it out. But when it comes to AI, there's problems.
Stop reading my tweet off for me.
there's these are problems every game company deals with AI, because a lot of it is just tuning. Like the shit zones in Madden 18, and then what we went to with 91 zone. I talked to like multiple Madden developers that year, and they all, I mean, this is what they said. They all swore up and down. They were like, dude, like the adjustment from those shit zones to that 91 zone threshold was the smallest move. Like you wouldn't even believe how small it was and how big of a difference it was able to make. And that's not a Madden problem. That's just how AI works. And yes, Madden has legacy issues that probably make it worse than maybe it would be in another game. That's their issue. But AI in itself being overpowered is a problem every game faces, and that's why it's hard to balance and why it's usually not very good in most games.
Yeah, I get you. And here's the thing, like you said, and tell me this is correct. I'm using your words. They could actually make the AI good in Madden. When you just said that the previous paragraph there, it was like, or whatever you just said, you said it was hard to do that. So is it easy for them to do that, or is it hard for them to do that?
No, I'm saying it's not hard to make the AI good. It's hard to make the AI balanced. Any company can make the AI good. They could turn it up. They could turn that.
What's your definition? Your definition is superhuman for good.
But that's what good AI typically does. When you have good AI, it's gonna perform. It's not human. That's the whole thing.
So realistic. Your realistic AI is kind of, maybe that's a better word for using.
Yeah.
Like, can they program a realistic
AI is probably, I would imagine, extremely difficult for any game to do, because no game we play is even close to realistic. We know it doesn't matter what game you play. There's some games that are better at it than others, but no game is close to realistic. Every game has tons of broken things in it that you can take advantage of. And
yeah,
if you were to make it good enough to where you couldn't do those things, like you would never win these games. You would always lose. Realistic AI is hard. Good AI is not hard. It's just it makes the game unplayable. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Sorry for trying to interrupt you there. So here's the thing: realistic versus good, and maybe that's our whole fundamental disagreement here. Like realistic AI and good AI. So like, I don't believe good AI is psychic, right? And I'm gonna repeat that point over and over. Like that, sure, you can make the game impossible to win, but that's not the point of the game. Realistic AI, what we're shooting for, needs to make cover 3 concepts work, need to make those concepts work against them. And you talked about earlier, man versus zone. Man is coded differently than zone, right? Man doesn't have to stick onto something like glue if the zones are also better. Like, a good AI makes it so, like, say you have a wide receiver running through the zone, they'll kind of, like, mirror them for a little bit until they pass it off to the next zone. Like, you don't need to make it so that way they're stuck as a cone. Like, it's not that hard to make them move, like, oh, hey, if wide receiver runs near me, let's move with him and shadow him and pass him off to the next zone. Like, you don't need to make your zone stand still and then have to react once the ball is thrown, once the quarterback goes. And onto your point about your developers saying that it was a slight adjustment for 91 zone, I could literally count the frames, right? And it doesn't seem like that hard to say put in a frame delay once you react, once the ball has to be out of the quarterback's hand, because on 91 zone, the quarterback was like at like a 3/4 cock position before, and they were reacting to exactly where the ball was going. So that, and then you could just delay that a little bit if you want to hack that together even more. So like, I don't believe that makes for a good game at all. I don't believe
it's like the further you try to hack things, though, like you cause more problems. Like one thing I know for sure, not to cut you off, just one quick thing is everything that we think like, oh, how hard is it? This shouldn't be that hard. Like pretty much all that stuff is hard. Like none of it's. If it was easy, we wouldn't deal with these problems. They're not purposely like fuck this. They're just gonna deal with these problems. Like these are all hard things, especially with
But
moving
here's the
parts.
thing, Eric. In a sense, they are saying fuck that because they're investing these resources into QB1 in the face of the franchise, that long shot shit, instead of the gameplay team, right?
Because those things are still
they don't have the
those
resources.
things are still important to a game too. As much as even though gameplay is the most important, like Madden, for all of its faults, just like many other games, is still a playable game. We play it all year, every year. So it's like you can't not invest in other things too. That's just not how game companies work. Yes, if it was up to us, we would just say put 100% into the gameplay, rebuild the whole thing, make it perfect. But that's not how any company operates. So it's not like that's just not a reality of what goes on. They have to put other things in the game because they want to attract new people to it, or whatever the case. Some people are asking for these things. People are asking for career mode, so they put it in the game. But yes, if it was up to us, we would say just make gameplay as perfect as it could be because that's what we care about most. But that's not how companies operate.
So you have absolutely no hope for the gameplay AI to be realistic. You're fine with you're fine with where
I'm
it's
not
at.
saying I have no hope. I just know that it's very hard. I'm trying to be reasonable and say like I want to see improvements. Like the beta for me that's an improvement. If 20 plays like the beta, that's still a step in the right direction. That's an improvement. That doesn't mean it still doesn't have a lot of things that need fixing. The blocking still had issues in the beta. Zones I thought were overall pretty bad in the beta, worse than last year. But there were other aspects of the game that were a lot better that made the game much more enjoyable to me.
You're okay just saying it's too hard to fix that stuff, so they should just like
No,
we should cut them a break.
no, I'm not.
Like we give them $500 million a year to do
No,
this.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that just because it's their job to do it doesn't mean that there's easy solutions to these things. We can't just say like, oh, it's your job.
Like it doesn't matter if it's
just-
easy
it's
or
just
not. It just needs to be
But
done.
some things don't have a solution. Like if the AI thing was so easy, every game would just have the perfect, most realistic AI, but none of them do. Because it's just not something that you could say, hey, like there's a solution. We just need to put in the work to do it. Like there's really just not a solution.
There is solutions
How?
though. We've literally talked about them.
How is there?
There are solutions to do. It doesn't matter if they're easy or hard. They just need to do
What's
them.
the solution to
right?
make AI realistic? Why is no game doing it?
You take every single problem, every single fault we have with it, break it down one by one, and then work on it. You constantly tweak. You get your game testers there to make sure it's realistic. Make sure your fullback can target the right guy right in front of his face. Make sure your linemen do the same thing, and you work on it piece by piece until you fix it and figure it out.
Right. Well, I mean, ideally
You have to put in time.
Ideally, that's what they try to do. But even doing it that way, that we're talking years and years of getting everything right. And then once you get stuff right, and then you go fix the next thing, that's going to interact with the other thing you fixed and now might mess it up. Like, dude, when it comes to coding, there's just no like, hey, let's just fix it one by one and it's all fixed. No, because you might fix 3 things, and then when you fix the 4th thing, the fact that you fixed the 4th thing now messes up the 3 things you already fixed. Code, that's how code works. Like this stuff isn't like, I mean, I don't know a lot about coding, but I know a little bit, and it's not what people think it is. Like you could be doing everything perfectly right, nailing down everything, and as soon as you touch one other thing, other shit just breaks, and there's no really rhyme or reason for it. Like none of this shit with games is easy, and none of it has not everything has a solution. A lot of these games have hacks in it because that's just how you have to get around it. It's, again, if you listen to devs talk from any game, not just Madden, interviews they've done, former or past devs, they all say the same thing. Like none of this shit is how people think it is. It's not like people just. It's the same when people are like, oh, just go rip out the old 2K5 or the old Maddens that were good and just like upgrade that. Like it don't work that way. Like none of this stuff works that way. If it was that way, our games would be way better. But they're not because there aren't solutions to all of these problems. And if just turning up the AI was the solution, sure, turn it up and now the game's unplayable. Like that's realistic AI is something we might not ever see, that a game that can perform exactly like it does in real life. That might not even be in the realm of possibility for our lifetime. We don't know that. Like maybe
yeah, but if we constantly, like, here's the thing: if we constantly put out tweets saying it's fine, it's too hard, your legacy code's too hard, that just makes them lazy, right? Don't we want to constantly be on their ass about, hey, this shit sucks, fix this, fix the blocking, fix the zones, fix the scramble drill, fix all these things that are broken in your game, and we gotta constantly hit them with that, or else they're just gonna be like, all right, nobody's complaining about it. Eric says it's too hard. We're fine. Let's just work on other things. Like face of the franchise, that development team is larger than the gameplay team and franchise team combined. So let's not like act like they don't have like resources to do these
We're still
things.
telling them to fix those things. Like that's where the other disconnect is. Like I'm not saying Madden hasn't been trashed and doesn't need a lot of improving. I'm just saying that when I said that having good AI just isn't what most people think it means, that's all I'm saying is it's not what most people think it means. Having good AI is something that what it really would mean is having a game that would most likely be unplayable. Realistic AI, like we just said a minute ago, that's a better term to use, but that's not something that's very easy to do and maybe not even possible. We don't know. But that doesn't mean they can't
Yep.
fix other things in the game. Like, yes, like the targeting on blocking, like that's something you can look at and say, I don't even know how much of an AI thing that is more of it's just like certain logic in the game that they, for whatever reason, haven't either put enough time into, whatever the case may be. That's something I look at and say that's definitely fixable. You can make the targeting better. It was better in old games. You can make it better now. Figure out why it's wrong. But when I'm just saying good AI, I'm talking the overall scope of the game. I'm talking about if you made the game as simulation as real football, there's not very many people that would even be able to cross midfield in a game like that because they don't know football concepts. And you could say, well, why are we babying them? Well, it's a video game where nobody,
I mean, that's what the difficulty levels are
I'm
for.
saying, yeah,
Like
but no,
we're talking
right, but
online.
no company is making a video game that is just catering to the top 1 or 2%. Like that's just not
Dark Souls, I talked about at the
but
top.
that's most AAA games aren't doing that. That's just not how they work. And yes, they have difficulty levels, but
Like isn't that what Battalion 1944 is taking off? So we hit our limit for the discussion for the video, but Rayweather, I think I'm gonna call it there. You can have the last word.
no, I think that's good. I mean, we touched on. I think, like I said, we just were disconnecting. Realistic AI, I agree. I would love that. I just
Yes.
don't know if it's possible. I don't know. I'm not gonna say yes
So
or
let us
no.
know in the comments
But yeah.
what you guys think. Is what you're hopeful for the future Madden? Is good AI? Is being too hard of a game bad for Madden overall? But that's it. Thanks, Eric, for hanging and chatting on this topic. I know we have such good, passionate debates here that I like them. And that's it. Take it easy.
Peace.